I might have come down, but okay, thanks. I'll go on.
Okay, so Rich and Andrea, I am going to go ahead and turn your guys' cameras off, just so that we've only got the speaker up here. Very good. Okay. Are you guys ready to get started? Okay, perfect. Very good. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 26th community conversation hosted by the City of La Mesa Community Relations and Veterans Commission. Tonight, we're going to be getting an update and overview on the home program, and I'd like to start this evening off with Chief Sweeney.
Thank you, Megan, and good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. We're always excited to be able to come and present on the programs that we're doing here in the City of La Mesa and La Mesa Police Department. And the home program, or our homeless outreach and mobile engagement, is one that I truly believe we're most proud of. It's something that, you know, was a long time coming. We are absolutely the first department in the county to get this program up and running. So the successes that we've shared to be able to home those that are struggling with homelessness and get them the services that they need have been very successful. Captain Matt Nicholas, who's here tonight, was a big part of that, getting this program up and off the ground and running. It's in its second phase now and doing just absolutely wonderful things for those that I said are struggling with homelessness. So with that, I'm going to introduce Captain Matt Nicholas, and he'll give you some further updates on the home program.
Thank you, Chief. Hello, everybody. I'm Matt Nicholas, and we have a PowerPoint presentation that we want to walk you through to kind of show you the history of the home program, how it came about, and then I'm going to go through a few slides, and then I'm going to introduce Matthew Smiley, who will take over and finish off the presentation for you. So Megan, if you don't mind helping me out real quick. Okay, perfect. So back in 2020, the City Council and other members of the community decided, hey, we're recognizing the homeless issue in La Mesa. What can we do about it? And let's take strides towards figuring out solutions and come up with options that will suit the City of La Mesa. And it was brought up in one of the council meetings, the CAHOOTS program in Eugene, Oregon. And at the time, we didn't know much about the program, but CAHOOT stands for Crisis Assistance Helping Out on the Streets. And we went up, we learned about the Eugene program and realized that a clinic called Whitebird Clinic had an arm of their support that worked with the Eugene Police Department that allowed individuals to go out into the community without police, even though they were partnered with the police department, to handle those people experiencing homelessness and see how they can help them. So that model utilized outreach workers and a mental health clinician to respond to the non-emergency calls for service in that area. And we like that model. So we came back and said, how can that work in La Mesa? So it came about, like I mentioned earlier, because in the 2020 point in time count, we had 52 unsheltered homeless. And we were concerned about that number increasing, and we were trying to address it the best way that we could. And we also had the community concern, and the city formed the Citizens Task Force on the Homeless. And they came up with a number of suggestions. And one of the suggestions was field response, field engagement, continual engagement with those out there. So in August of 2020, the PD looked at the data that they had and said, what can we do? Let's take a small sampling of data. Let's look at the calls for service that we've gone to. And let's find out how many of these calls related to homeless personnel that we could have handled without a sworn police officer going. And we reviewed those calls and we determined that there were 275 calls related to homelessness, and 159 of those, so 58%, could have been handled by a non-sworn officer based on the circumstances, which means they weren't violent, threatening, and if they were committing any crime at all, it was a very low-level crime. So we wanted to find ways to decrease our police response and the fire department response. So some of the benefits that we were trying to achieve is we want individuals going out there to address these non-emergency calls, and we want them to take a de-escalation approach and hopefully focus on some counseling services and get them the help that they need to better themselves and hopefully get them into a different environment. So we also wanted to address the gaps in services for the homeless and look at some of the gaps that we saw from some of the other entities and see what we can do with transportation, connecting to ongoing mental and somatic health care, and assisting with navigating the judicial system, because there are some individuals that need help with that. They need to be walked through. What can we do to help out? And then enhance the services available to the community members, the residents and the businesses for non-emergency issues. And then we really don't want a police officer interacting with the individual, because we want to have them available for the emergency calls, and they don't have the time that some of the homeless individuals need to work through their problems and get solutions. And individuals like Matthew and Earl specifically have the time and the skill set to do that. And then we looked at, okay, where do we house the home team within the city? How does this work? And is it a police, is it something that we can put in the police department? Can we put it somewhere else? Where can Matthew and Earl work out of as a city asset? And we elected to use the police department because we had the infrastructure in place. We have our police radios. We have a way to communicate with them. And up until this point, the police officers were the individuals that were interacting with our homeless population on a daily basis. So we had some collaboration where we can share information and hopefully make their job easier and get them the help that they needed. So we began phase one with city support. In November of 2020, we were able to form a contract with the people assisting the homelessness. It's called PATH, for a short-term solution. We didn't have all the answers. We weren't the experts at the time. We just knew we wanted to take steps to improve what we were doing prior to 2020. So PATH had a system in place. They had a response. So we ended up contracting with PATH, and they adapted and flexed their model to meet the needs of La Mesa and worked in conjunction with the police department to come up with what we thought was best. We took some of their suggestions, they took some of our suggestions, and we kind of grew as a team for that first year. With the whole goal of year two, we would bring it internal and we would hire individuals that worked out of the city of La Mesa, so we could kind of have control and direct the individuals to meet our needs as things changed. You know, if one area we don't need as much engagement, well, let's move it over and let's have them focus with Caltrans and other partners, and how can we make this work? So we used numerous grants to fund this, and that's how it got through to where we're at a point to where right now it's all grant funding for the next 5 years. So I mentioned a little bit about phase two already. Now we have hired 2 individuals. We hired Matthew Smiley, who you're going to meet in just a second, and then Earl Childers, who go out in the van every day and they just talk to these individuals, and they do everything that they can to get them the resources that they need to get them off the streets. So right now, like I mentioned a little while ago, we decided to put them under the umbrella of the police department so we could still dispatch them calls. So when a community member calls in and has an issue that's non-urgent, not an emergency, but say hypothetically, you have somebody who you've seen a couple days who's homeless that's near your residence, and you know they need help. Well, you can call the police department and then we'll forward that to Matthew and Earl, and they'll go out there. And sometimes it may be a little bit more elevated to where the response needs to be a little bit quicker. That's where the police department can really help out and notify them right away on the radio, and they can get there within minutes oftentimes. And we started off with a housing first model with the philosophy that we need to put somebody in a home and then we can start looking at other services. That's still a great model. What we found over time is that we've kind of evolved to a service-driven model because we don't have housing for everybody immediately. There's some people that meet certain criteria that it takes days, weeks, and sometimes months to get them placed, but we don't want to delay the services. So we want to start working on the services right away with the home team. So that way, when they do get housed, they're better suited to be successful in that housing environment. And then they constantly re-engage with the homeless individuals, the new individuals, the ones that have been here for years, and they're developing, and honestly, they're developing a rapport with these people to where they're comfortable talking to them and sharing their concerns, sharing their problems. And Matthew and Earl are doing a phenomenal job on working with them to achieve their ultimate goals of getting off the streets. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matthew Smiley, and he's going to end up talking about our partnerships in the community and kind of how he works right now and some of the statistical data that we've come up with so far. So Matthew, thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Smiley. I'm the clinical outreach specialist for the Homeless Outreach and Mobile Engagement Team, and I'm a registered social worker with the state of California. So I'm our clinical part of the team, and Earl Childress, who you'll usually see around with me, he's the technical part. Some of the community partnerships that we've really been able to develop is really broad. We're able to meet a lot of different needs, but the first part of getting to those people and starting to address those needs is getting information from the public. That's why we have our website. That's why we have our phone number posted all the time. And we really enjoy getting calls and feedback regarding who you guys are seeing on the streets, what you guys are seeing that we aren't seeing, because we just can't be everywhere at once. And so we're always appreciative to get those calls into our voicemail. And then one of our real big goals is to be transparent about what we're doing. Every opportunity we have to come to a meeting like this and talk about our program, we always want to take advantage of that. And along with that, we share our statistics at quarterly intervals with the city council and the police as well. And we always like to share success stories, because I think it's one thing to have the numbers and the quantitative data, but you know, as we all know, homelessness is such a big problem that you can get lost in the numbers. And I think there's a lot of real value in understanding an individual story. And even if we can just house one person and allow them to live with some dignity throughout their life is life-changing. Like I was saying before, one of the things we really pride ourselves on is getting people connected to a variety of resources. I would say more than half of the calls that we get from community members are talking about people who are very obviously experiencing somatic and mental health problems. And because of that, we have found out that, you know, while we're waiting on housing to come about, either through the Housing Commission or a landlord, or waiting for a voucher to be approved, we want to get people connected to things like the East County Mental Health Center, the Family Health Center. Both of those organizations serve the majority of our people, and we can do walk-in appointments and walk-in enrollments. And we're not just giving people a bus pass and sending them to this address. Some of the best things we do is we give people transportation to these appointments, go to the doctor with these people, kind of help them advocate for themselves and make sure that they're getting the type of service that they need and deserve. A lot of the housing is done through our external partnerships, such as the County of San Diego Regional Task Force on Homeless and the East County Task Force. I could kind of get into the weeds and the way the process works, but just to kind of make it short and sweet, we do an assessment. that connects people to the San Diego Housing Commission, and they connect us to external housing providers, things like Section 8, rapid rehousing, and subsidized apartments in both downtown and East County. The original funding for phase 1 came through community block grants. Now that that has ended and we were going on to phase 2, we are being funded through the Permanent Local Housing Authority, PLHA funds. And these funds will fund the program for at least 5 years. And then once that comes to an end, we will kind of reassess where we're at, where funding can be pulled from, if more grants can be applied to, and things of that nature. So everyone's favorite parts is the numbers, the statistical overview. This was done by the Regional Task Force on Homeless during the point in time count. If you don't know what a point in time count is, that is done all over the United States for anyone who receives federal funding for any type of program needs to participate in a point in time count. That is one day out of the year where people go and literally count every person on the street. We're really proud of this point in time count. As you can see, in the year 2020, we had 52 people experiencing homelessness and 53 people experiencing homelessness, and 52 of them were actually living on the street. So most of the people are literally living outside under a tent. During the next count of homelessness, we found that the number of people experiencing homelessness had stayed the same, but the number of people living on the street had dropped to 35. So while everywhere else in the county saw at least a 20% rise in people actually living on the street, we saw a 30% decrease. Part of the way that that happened is connecting people to already existing resources, such as the East County Transitional Living Center, the Mission Academy, Jewish Family Services. These are things that have always existed, but people in La Mesa were not getting connected to prior to home coming in. Yes. Yes. Yeah. They're in shelters and transitional living centers. So like I said before, when we had every single person in La Mesa experiencing homelessness before was living on the street, at the park, in their car. And now the number has remained the same, but a lot of these people are in transitional living centers, homeless shelters, because as soon as they hit the street, Earl and I are able to make contact with them, assess what type of program is the most appropriate and has room, and then get them connected to that resource. These are some of the kind of in the weeds data. It's probably hard for you guys to see. So on the next slide, we can kind of get into more ways for this. Since November of 2020, we have served 515 clients. A lot of those people are one-time touches as they pass through the city. Someone gets off the trolley, they're experiencing homelessness. We'll kind of start them on the right path, give them some food, ID voucher, kind of get them started towards their goal. And then that way, even if we don't see them again, the next time that they touch the system, they're already that much further along. We've had 2,566 instances of services. So that means when we're face-to-face with somebody, giving out food, water, blankets, talking to them about connecting to healthcare, giving them rides to healthcare appointments, going to the appointments with people, that's what that encompasses. 2,141 community requests for service. That's when people call into the police dispatch or our cell phones or our home line, when they send up bat signals, and we come out as quickly as we can, and we've been able to address that many concerns. There's been 35 times where an officer has requested home team assistance. What that means is when an officer is out with someone experiencing homelessness because it was an emergent situation or a crime was being committed, there were 35 times since we've been counting this that they were able to say, hey, you know what, it looks like you need a social worker. Is that something you're interested in? Someone says, yes, they are. And the police are able to call me and Earl out, and we're able to more or less say, hey, thanks guys, and you can walk away. And this is a really great experience for the client because they see that we're gonna kind of go the extra mile for sure. And there were 33 times where home team requested officers. This could be for a variety of reasons, but I think it really just speaks to our ability to maintain safety, even though we don't have an officer with us at all times. That can just create an unnecessary barrier to somebody building rapport with us. So it's been great that the La Mesa Police Department has allowed us to go out on our own by ourselves with the trust that if we do get into a situation that we do need an officer, they are quickly there by a variety of ways to come meet with us. And since we've made this slide, there have been 59 people permanently housed since 2020. There is going to be a new quarterly report submitted to the council very soon, which will have even more people permanently housed. What we mean by permanently housed is they're signing year-long leases at a placement. We don't have shelters in East County, unfortunately. And so what that means is we're working on long-term goals. And we're not just putting people in a shelter and driving away. We're applying to apartments, talking to landlords, paying application fees, making sure people are really set up for long-term success. And as you can see, the temporarily housed number is a little bit lower at 14. And those are just kind of special cases where ECTLC is just the perfect fit for them, or the Mission Academy is just a really great fit. And so we're able to put them in a transitional living center with the understanding that they're working towards permanent housing with staff on site and resources readily available. Please. So there's a variety of things that can happen from, and really I think ECTLC is a year-long program with work attached to it. So I think after the first so many days, you have the opportunity to go to the ranch. And while you're there, you can kind of work on building up skills and getting reconnected to, you know, the services that they see fit. And then afterwards, it's my understanding that they're helping people attain permanent housing. If someone leaves a shelter or they leave a transitional living center, which does happen, they can always re-enroll with the program. We don't just wash our hands of people. We understand that this is a process, this is a cycle. And so we have had people go to places like the East County Transitional Living Center and leave for one reason or another. And we just pick up where we left off. And we try not to hold that against people. Yeah, I can't really get too much into it. It's not my program to speak on, but, you know, it's my understanding they have a ranch in Del Zura where you're able to, reconnect with wellness and work and just kind of follow their program.
Is there an extension or program that refer people to that maybe are experiencing physical or sexual abuse?
Yeah, so Homestart in El Cajon has a really great DV program and a DV coordinator. And, that's one of those things that, we go with people to those appointments to make sure that they're getting the resources that we need. And we typically go to Homestart for that. And there's another program downtown that I'm kind of blanking on, but we do have resources for that. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Those programs kind of operate with their own resources. And so I really can't speak to everything that they're able to do, but that's typically where we go and where we take people who are experiencing that type of situation. Yeah.
And then just to build on that answer a little bit, the district attorney's office as well, if they've been a victim of a crime, have victim assistance programs that will provide them services as well. regardless of their living status.
Okay. You also have people who don't want to be home. I mean, but for whatever reason, how do you handle that situation? They just go off living on the street, or you can have something helps you?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And just for those watching, she asked, what do we do regarding people who, don't necessarily want our services the first time that we touch them? And we utilize a evidence-based practice called progressive engagement. It's part of the research that people don't typically want to access services the first time you meet them. We really need to build rapport with people and relationship building. So, a lot of times the first time we meet somebody, housing isn't necessarily something that's discussed. We're talking about, food, clothes, water, safety, violence prevention, violence protection. So we might not necessarily talk about housing for the first, 4 or 5 interactions. And, there are some people that have outright refused services. So we usually give them a couple week break, and then we'll kind of go back and kind of make sure that their decision is final. And we just kind of continue this progressive engagement model. We don't take anything personally. If people tell us to leave, we'll leave, and then we'll come back at another time. And usually we've had a lot of success with that. Yeah, to be honest, we have tried to talk to every business that calls in. We try not to just go address the person experiencing homelessness. We'll kind of go into the business, give our card, reach out, and then we try to keep our number posted as much as possible. And we're always reachable by our cell phones, as well as the hotline and the email and everything else.
And we do have a link on the city's website that details the program, and also has a video that shows what they do and the services that they provide. And we also have some flyers that we passed out in some of the business districts, and we can get more of those that have the phone number, have the information, and some of them are your little business cards that you can hand individuals if you're a business owner, somebody down in the village or on the west side of the city, and you see somebody, you give them the information, because it's our goal to make sure that everybody knows the program exists and they take advantage of it, so we can ultimately get people the help that they want.
I appreciate that. No, there's a few council members that have given me like a card or two, but I think the real issue is like there's a lot of businesses that don't know your council members and they don't have information in the city hall. So I'd be awesome if any copies you guys have or extra you can make available. I'd love to be able to share with the folks that meet the business owners. Who are not that, because I know you guys are doing a wonderful job, and just share that information so that they know your contact.
Absolutely, and then at the end of this PowerPoint, we'll also have a slide with contact information.
So I think the bread and butter of the program, the thing that really makes this thing great is success stories. We're changing people's lives. We rewind, people are changing their own lives with our assistance. And they're doing really great work for themselves. And we're able to just provide an avenue for people to come to fruition the dignity that they should be living with. A really great example of this is someone who got connected to us in very late 2020, more or less when the program initially started. This is somebody who had been contacted by the police multiple times for living on the street and low-level crimes that come with that, camping, littering, things of that nature. This is, like I said, this is one of the first people that was referred over to us. After working with them for a while and exploring a variety of different housing matches, kind of like you mentioned earlier, we're looking at ECTLC, if that's a good fit, looking at other programs, just kind of finding out that this is someone who needs long-term support and long-term funding and permanent housing. So what we did was an application for an emergency housing voucher. Those are Section 8 vouchers that were granted to the County of San Diego. And we were actually lucky enough to be one of the people that was granted that. Once we got that voucher, we worked really hard to collect all identifying documents, ID, social security card, birth certificate, vaccination records for the dog, and a million other things that I probably can't think of right now, registrations. It's a packet about 60, 70 pages thick. We turned that in. She was eventually approved to get her actual voucher. And then we did the housing search. We applied to no less than 20 apartments, just going, knocking on doors, talking to landlords, explaining what Section 8 is, how it works, where the funding comes from. She was eventually approved to move into a place. And as the county works, we had about a 2 days notice from the time that she was approved to the time she had to move in. So we got all her utilities turned on. We got her rental insurance paid for the first month, and did the deposits for her to actually be able to move into the place. It's a very small picture, but that was her camp. That is where she moved into. And she will have a lifetime voucher through Section 8. And she's in her apartment now. Talked to her about a month ago. She's still doing well. Some of the services that we got hooked up for while she was on the street were, she had a dog, and we have access to like free veterinary care. If we do a referral and the client can follow through with the steps. Got her dog taken care of on multiple occasions. Got her connected to physical health care through the Family Health Center. And that was one of the things that actually qualified her for the emergency housing voucher, to have that ongoing health care set up. And so she is permanently housed, still doing well, and she'll have that voucher for the rest of her life. And this is somebody who's been homeless in La Mesa for over a decade. Someone who is getting touched by the police countless times, and would have continued to be out on the street, out on someone's sidewalk, behind someone's business. And she's gone now. And it's not only that she's gone, but she's where she needs to be, and she's able to live with dignity. Mm-hmm. Can you explain that a little further? Do you mean like a community member, or do you mean someone experiencing homelessness? I wouldn't be able to give you a percentage, but I would say that, one of the big issues and big cost factors for people experiencing homelessness is their over-reliance on emergency services. And so a lot of times when someone experiencing homelessness is having a chronic pain issue and they can't drive to the ER, they're very quickly ready to call EMS or the fire department. So if I had to guess, I would say a large percentage are high utilizers of emergency services, both the hospitals and EMS and firefighters.
And just to build on what he said, I talked to the fire department about that because we wanted to figure out a way, we're still working through to determine a way to best track the calls that they get, where the individual just wants the care and really doesn't need to be transported, if that makes sense. And what we found is with the home program, engaging with these individuals before they get to that point, that their calls are going down. So we just don't have the number. Hopefully we will in the future.
Preventative healthcare is how we address these overburdened emergency services. And we've learned that in late 2016, the value of preventative healthcare. And that's why I touched on what I touched on earlier about connecting people to places like the Family Health Center. Because if you're meeting with a PCP and getting blood draws and taking your prescriptions and getting ongoing care, you're not going to have to access emergency services nearly as much as people who haven't had a primary care physician in 2 decades. Yeah, sorry about that. Keep forgetting. So she asked what I thought the percentage was of people experiencing chronic homelessness who are accessing things like the fire department and emergency medical services.
Just to build on Meshman's question, maybe, I know there have been some fires started. Is that a problem where they, in order to keep warm, they start fires and then it spreads and you have a problem? It seems like that happened on Fletcher Property. Maybe.
Yeah. So I know you just asked, is it an issue where people who are experiencing homelessness, like fires that grow out of control? I would say that happens for sure. It's hard to cook outside. It's hard to keep warm. So that definitely is an issue that does arise for sure.
What are you trying on in your program? How is relating 10 years on the street? How is people getting to the street? What kind of issues or, what is life serve them that they end up on?
Yeah.
How are they getting?
That's another great question you asked. Like, what is leading people to living on the street? It's such a complex issue. I think a big part of it is how hard it is to access quality mental health care in America. That's not an easy route to access, and a lot of people are living on the street with untreated mental health issues. I think another big part of it is that a lot of people don't talk about is literally the cost of housing. There are so many people living on the street right now that 10 years ago were renting an apartment. Social Security payments for a lot of my folks are around $1,100. There's no budgeting to be done to let someone like that live inside. Where do you go when you only make $1,100? Rooms for rent are around $800, $900. It's scary, right? These are retirees, people that have worked their whole lives that are left with nothing. And the price of housing has literally led people to homelessness. And then I think another big part of it is that people have tried to access programs in the past and haven't received quality service for one reason or another. And now they are kind of burned out on services and don't really trust people who say that they're going to provide the help that they say they're going to provide. And so it just becomes easier to rely on yourself, rely on people that you know, rather than to rely on service providers who you might not have the ultimate faith in. So that's on. So yes, the average age of the people that I'm serving, that's always on the quarterly report. It's, I would say, older than 30, younger than 70. I would say is the vast majority. A lot of people in their 40s and 50s, but there's a lot of people 55 and older.
Okay, so this is a question from Facebook from Sean, asking if homeless act for calls from the public when encounters with the unsheltered occur. We've recently seen sleeping unsheltered folks in the baseball stands at Colton Field during the Little League practices and haven't received a response from home when we've called. And so Little League's gonna be Monday through Friday in the afternoons and evenings.
Yep.
And weekends.
Yeah. So we go to calls as soon as we can. A lot of times when we come in from a day, from an evening, we have 4 or 5 calls on the queue that we need to get to. And each call can take multiple hours depending on what a person needs, what they're presenting. And, we get to calls as quickly as we can. We do our absolute best. But we're just a 2-man team going as quickly as we can while trying to provide quality service to the folks that we're interacting with.
Few questions actually, but it sounds like a lot of people. I would be curious eventually to know if you can expand that way. Expand the word being done. But the other question, we have 2 questions related to statistics. And if you can tell us from your report, say for a year and a little year so. Are you, do you have statistics on how people are homeless? It sounds like you have a general knowledge, right? Do you get any statistics on that? Is that on the quarterly report?
No.
And then part of what I'm wondering is I'm also thinking, I know for great work, but how do you get people access to the first things? the other question I would have is, do you have any like surveys or statistics you believe that every time of those surveys that we got what's in the program,
So we don't really track on what brought a person to homelessness. That's not in any of the data that we're collecting right now. That's something that we can look into. And we don't have any quality assurance surveys at this time. Yeah.
What did you have at night one? What you request from your program? You could
Yeah. So if we had a magic wand to wave, what would I give my program? Well, I would give people a variety of housing options, both short-term in the form of shelter and long-term in the form of actually affordable housing.
So it sounds like you don't interact with youth very much, maybe not at all, but there's that new youth shelter on University, and I was just wondering if you have any interactions with them or.
Yeah, we have we actually do have a lot of interaction with youth experiencing homelessness. Typically, these are people who are classified as transition age youth, people between the ages of 18 and 24. And we do have a budding partnership with the youth shelter on University. Yeah, Urban Street Angels, Home Start, and yeah. This is our contact information. Like I said, we get to calls as soon as humanly possible. Like I said, we usually come in with a backlog of 3 or 4 from each day, and we do our best to get to people very quickly. Yes. Not to my knowledge. Are we the only city? Are we aware of any other city doing a program like this or conducting a program like this? And not to the best of my knowledge. In the county.
So Path is taking a portion of this model and using it in some other contract cities and the experiment station.
We're probably closer to about 10 calls a day, and each one can take it can take 4 hours or it can take 5 minutes. It really depends on what people are presenting and what resources are available to get them to what they need to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I just wanted to finish up by saying thank you guys for being here. Thank you, everybody that's tuned in. 2 things I wanted to say in the beginning that I kind of missed. And we started trying to provide services for those experiencing homelessness years ago. We were working with a county agency. They would come here with our police officers. We would go out and try and do the same thing, build this rapport and get contact. And we made so many contacts that the county agency came out here twice a week with us initially with the police officers. So we were out with the police officers. And what we found is we were getting nobody to take those services. And yes, it could be because you have a uniform there and they're afraid of that, or they've had experiences with a uniform that maybe they're kind of standoffish. But the bottom line here, I mean, you look at the successes of this program that we've had in under 2 years. And it's absolutely amazing, because I can tell you that when we started trying to get these services and having our police officers help, because our police officers want to help, we were able to house nobody, 0. Nobody took the services. So you talked about, those that are resistant to services. Everybody that we talked to were resistant to services. And the reason for that is because we don't have the time to build that rapport. So as they're coming out once a week with our officers and we're going out there and we're talking to them, now Matthew and Earl are out there every single day. And I think you can hear the passion in Matthew's voice when he talks about this. This is commitment. This is what a successful program looks like, is when you have people like Matthew, people like Earl that have put their heart and soul into this program to make it what it is. And, you know, an idea with Captain Nicholas going up to Eugene, Oregon to take a look at this program, absolutely amazing. We are extremely proud, so proud that even the San Diego County grand jury recognized our program, which is an amazing feat. They recognized our home program and the successes that we're having. So I guarantee you that there are going to be other counties and cities that will follow us. They'll see the success we're working with and the challenges that, you know, homelessness is, because like Matthew said, it is so multifaceted. There's so many pieces to it that it really takes a village. And, you know, fortunately here in La Mesa, we have that village of people that truly, truly care and want to get people to help. We're not drawing extra people here to La Mesa. And that's kind of been one thing. You're getting more people to come here because you have this program. That's not the truth. We haven't seen that. And my reality is if people want to come here to get the services to get connected, well, then they're not going to stay here. They're going to go. So we're going to try and connect them to those services. So in the future, we would love to expand this program. Absolutely. So we'll keep track of those statistics. Everybody's brought up some great points tonight that we'll take a look at as we move forward. But, you know, we even took money out of our police budget to get this thing off the road. And a lot of people don't know that. You know, it wasn't just grant funds. We took money out of our budget to get this thing up and going. And it was that important to us. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, this is an incredible program. We're very proud of it. We're going to go everywhere we can to talk about it. So thank you for bringing that up. You know, those that don't know about it, please look on our website. Please look on the city's website. Please look for any presentations that the police department is going to do. It's really a partnership, you know, and there's been questions. Why is the homeless service partner with the police department? It works. And you know, if it didn't work, then we'd look at something else. But this works because we want Matthew and Earl to go out there and do their job and be passionate, but we also want them to be safe. Yes, ma'am.
Social worker. So Earl's not a social worker. Earl has worked in homeless services for the better part of a few years, and he's worked at mental health systems. He worked at Veterans Villages in San Diego. He's a veteran himself, and so Earl has a ton of lived experience as well as a variety of systems experience for what's available in San Diego.
La Mesa proper, city of La Mesa. And yes and no. And the first question was, what was Matthew or Earl's technical skills? And the second question is, do we cover just the city of La Mesa? We do cover that footprint. It's just like our police services cover the city of La Mesa, but Matthew has worked with Caltrans, which has property that borders our cities, where we have typically a lot of issues with people setting up camps there. We work with Caltrans, we work with Lemon Grove, we work with any agency that borders our city and that can help us. So it's been a very, like I said, very cohesive and successful program. Yes.
What I like about everything that all of you talked about tonight was, you know, because there's a lot of naysayers about helping the homeless. You covered the lowering of the emergency room, which saves taxpayers big time. That's a huge one. And then I've had other people that have said or stated the issue that you brought up, Chief Sweeney, about well, if we started helping them, we'll just get more, and that you don't have any evidence of that. I think that when you were presenting, that you make sure that you cover those issues, because I always believe that was incorrect information, and everything that you shared with us tonight helps us know that is incorrect information, and that they need to hear the truth about how we can actually help the homeless get back on track from the beginning. You can't say everybody, but it sounds like you're on the right track, and you're doing way more than other cities right now are doing, just in our county alone. You know, this is a good example that they can use for themselves to implement.
We agree. We can't wait for people to call us up and ask, how did you do it? And we had those calls already. You know, people are already starting to call us and ask us, how did you do it? What did it take? What were your challenges? You know, those things that are typical when you have a successful program that's within a small city. I mean, we're, 61,000 residents. We're 9.2 square miles, and we're killing it right now. We're doing a great job. I don't mean that literally. We're doing a very, very good job. Very good job.
The one thing I like to say about bringing people here, the people that get the most calls to my voicemail is a problem. And so folks that I get all calls about. These people are from the Mesa. These people graduated from Felix High School. They had apartments in La Mesa before they were homeless. And if you look at their IDs, they still have La Mesa address. I would say the majority of my clients went to Helix. It's amazing and very unfortunate all at the same time.
I apologize for being here. Is there anything like outreach, man table and outreach, just helping out information and getting basic information, like volunteers or?
Yeah, I think getting the word out, helping people understand what we're doing, kind of like what the chief said. We're not trying to bring more people to La Mesa. We're trying to help people that are already our neighbors get inside and experience dignity. And I think the biggest thing that the community can do is treat people with dignity. These are our neighbors. These are people. These are Helix High School graduates, just like a lot of people in this room. And I think that's the biggest thing that people can do is just treat people with empathy and dignity and just understand that these are our neighbors.
Okay, we do have 2 questions on Zoom, so if you guys will hold on. The first one is going to be Dom. I actually showed 2 Doms, both with their hands raised. So the first Dom, I just sent a notification that you can unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question.
Dawn, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, hi. Thank you. So the first thing I wanted to ask was if you're working with homeless court.
I think you have 2 devices on. Can you turn off the volume on one of them?
Yeah, we're getting rid of one.
Thank you.
If part of your interaction with the judicial system here is with homeless court?
Unfortunately, we don't access homeless court. That's typically a San Diego resource. But I'm really glad that you did ask about how we help people navigate the judicial system. A lot of the people that we're working with have, small traffic tickets, camping tickets, tickets that they picked up before they ever ran across the home program. So what we do is take people to El Cajon Court, help them get put back on calendar, and then we go to court with people and then advocate on their behalf as their social worker, their care team, and talk about what we do at the program, how it would be beneficial for them to have either, like a really good example is we took somebody last week who had $3,500 in back DMV fees. So we got in front of a judge, talked to him about, he's turning his life around, he's connected to different programs. And so we got that reduced to 2 days of community service. And we do a lot of things just like that for people that would never be able to kind of dig themselves out of, this judicial hole that they've gotten themselves in. And unfortunately, people are just so afraid to go to court. And so I can be there as a social worker, as an authority figure to say, hey, we're going to take everything as it comes and just try to, do a little motivational interviewing to make sure that they're completing their goals.
Yeah, so I did have a couple more things. First, I wanted to ask what sort of donations you need, if any, or if your partner agencies are taking them and what you would most want. And I did just really want to acknowledge the incredible work you're doing. I work in homeless services. I do a lot of what you do, and your numbers are amazing. They're freaking amazing. I am blown away. I am just in awe of what you are doing with just you and Earl and the partnerships that you've fostered. I can't even say enough about it. And I'll certainly be speaking at the next city council meeting about it as well. But I do want to get back to if you are accepting donations and what kind or what community partner you would want us to donate to.
Yeah, thank you for that very kind feedback. I was very appreciated. Good donations for us is any non-perishable food items are really good. Canned goods, chips, things like that. And then, you know, any clothes donations. We are partnered with the La Mesa Thrift Store on 3rd and I think it's 3rd and Lemon. And they kind of manage our clothes donation centers. And so I always want to give a big shout out to them. And if you guys are donating, you know, any clothes, they're a great partner for us, and they provide so much clothes that sometimes we can't even use them all.
Okay, good to know. And where would the food donations go to?
Are they okay to just go to the station? Yeah, they would just go to the station. Any non-perishables are great for sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we have Commissioner Laurie, I believe, or Commissioner Long, you had a question? You can unmute yourself.
Commissioner Long, you can speak now.
Yes, thank you. I just want one question. You know, this is also Veterans Commission, and I do work with the Homeless Veterans Program, Veterans Stand Down that we have every July, during the summer period of time. So my question is, if you know this, or people will tell you, do you have a percentage of people that you can just off the top of your head that are veterans? That's my question.
Off the top of my head, well, I can tell you right now, I think there's 3 on my caseload. One of the things about veterans experiencing homelessness is there is a plethora of programs out there, and we have really great partnerships with PATH and VVSD. And typically we're able to get our veterans connected to housing services on average much quicker than just the average person living on the street. So to be honest, veterans just don't stay on my caseload quite as long as other people who are not veterans.
I work downtown. I'm very proud of what you folks are doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm a 46-year resident of La Mesa.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions from anybody on Zoom, or we are monitoring the Facebook page? We did already answer a question from Sean earlier in the talk, but are there any other questions coming up that people would like to ask? You guys have any closing statements?
Real quick, thank you for letting us present. I mean, this is an exciting opportunity for us. We're always willing to do this. So if you know, this is also how you can help us. If you know of some meeting that's going on that maybe we don't know and you want us to present, we're happy to do that. Obviously, we've got work to do during the day. You know, we have a lot of clients to talk to, but we're happy to come out and get our team to continue to shout about how great of a job Matthew and Earl are doing and how wonderful this program's been. So thank you all.
Perfect. Well, yes, thank you everyone for attending our community conversation tonight, presented in partnership with the La Mesa Police Department and the La Mesa Community Relations and Veterans Commission. We do invite you out next month. We will be here in person at the La Mesa Adult Enrichment Center with local veterans resources. We're going to have a veterans resource fair here. It is going to be on a different night of the month than our normal meeting. So rather than the 4th Wednesday of the month, we will be meeting on the 3rd Wednesday of the month, which will be November 16th at 6 p.m. here in person at the La Mesa Adult Enrichment Center. You can find more information about that on the City of La Mesa website next week. Thank you so much and have a great evening.